Oh yeah. Hi everybody. So let's sorry about that. Hey, hold on, be right back. No, this totally didn't happen. And hey everybody, I was not streaming to the wrong server. I literally just didn't hit go live. Like I need to make the setting in OBS that's like, no, if I start broadcasting, just go live immediately. Um you missed the countdown. Hold on, I gotta show you really fast. I was talking to myself, but I had Brandon here. He was hanging out with me. We'll get to that in a second. I gotta show you real quick though. This is what it would look like. It is twice in a row, Glenn. It's because I'm not in the habit of it. I don't do it often enough. It's so bad. You can tell I haven't been streaming enough. All right, let me go back. I need you to see the countdown video because it's really cute though. So let's go ahead and show that real quick. You get it? It's about Time Lords. It's about time, and it's about Time Lords because Gallifrey, the G release of Binary Ninja, is Doctor Who themed, and so Doctor Who Time Lords. That's like the Time Lord Council, but with the Team Benji photo. Anyway, all right. Well, sorry you didn't get 5 minutes of that, because you should have been having that the whole time. The 5 minute countdown. Actually, next time in chat, if it's within 5 minutes, say something in chat. Be like, I don't see the countdown because you should at that point. I'm already like with always 5 minutes before the stream. I should have that up, and so you guys can remind me. But anyway, welcome back. Let's try this again. We are gonna get back into it real quick. I've got my reverse hoodie on. Thanks to everybody. I do, Greg. It's a lot of, yeah. For a while, we actually had the office taken apart. It was crazy. There was stuff kind of all over the place, but I would very much like to get back in the habit of streaming regularly. I actually have an idea. If we have time at the end of this stream, this will probably be a long one with a lot of features for 5.0. I have an idea for a whole project that I want to do on stream that I think will be super fun. And so I'll show you a little sneak peek of that at the end of this stream. Remind me. If I don't say anything, remind me, and we'll pull that up. But in the meantime, we're back. If anybody was in at Reverse, give a shout out for anybody that made it to the conference. That was a lot of the reason we didn't, because the last 2 months we were swamped. I was working crazy hours just trying to get that thing ready. Event was awesome, went super well. Videos are going up. Actually, I think as soon as I'm done here, I'll upload the first video. First video should be going live from that. We're going to be putting most of the talks, not all of them, but most of them were. Yeah. So Gallifrey is actually the name of a planet in the Doctor Who universe. So it's just the name of, I forget if it's the, I'm not a huge Doctor Who fan, but all of our releases are named after science fiction and fantasy planets. And so it's Gallifrey is like the home of the Time Lords in Doctor Who. So that's all of our releases are like alphabetical, kind of like Ubuntu, but this one comes named after the planet of the Time Lords. And so we have a whole bunch of cool Doctor Who themed images and stuff. But all right, yes, we had a couple people. Miguel, welcome, and Pio Jiren. Y'all may have been at Reverse. It was a blast. So thanks to everybody that made it out to it. Like I said, we'll get those videos up soon. Actually, I'm gonna make a note of that because videos are done, or at least the first few, and I'm gonna start putting those online. So we'll do that as well. Let's see. Yeah, that's basically it. We're gonna jump into a time traveling debugging pun. Well, Robert, in the stream there's not, but you've just guaranteed there will be in the release blog. A TTD Doctor Who theme pun. I mean, we have all sorts of good images, so that's fantastic. Thank you so much for mentioning that. I appreciate it. All right, yeah. So let's get into it. We've got Brandon's here with us. Brandon, I think everyone can hear you if you speak. Let's see if.
Hello. Do you hear me?
There he is. There he is.
Right.
I don't remember if we got a Dalek, but we got K9. We've got Fido, and K9. Oh, I think that means.
Click and subscribe to the channel.
Oh, it does voiceover stuff too now. Thanks for the subscription. I don't even remember turning that on. Look at that. Or maybe I just never heard it before when it happens. So Brandon's going to talk to us about Firmware Ninja. This is kind of our outline, just so you can see it here on the left. I'm using the Binary Ninja project to like guide what we're going to be talking about. Exactly, Valgrind. Hello, disembodied voice. I can turn it off really easily and we lose chat, or I can Firmja. That's a good abbreviation. So Firmware Ninja is in Ultimate only. So for those of you that have, uh, sorry, Mason, text to speech donations, people, uh, yeah, people, pay to get their messages on stream in my headset. Um, so for those of you that are already using Ultimate or using Enterprise, and just kind of as a brief refresher, since I feel like it's been a while if you're not familiar with it, Ultimate is like the single user standalone kind of Enterprise. Enterprise is the server and collaboration, all that stuff. But it's the same like client side features, same architectures, the feature architectures, and notably Firmware Ninja, which actually, by the way, you know what, Brandon, we don't actually show that here, do we? Also,
No.
I'm gonna make your window bigger by the way, so you can see what I'm doing a little bit bigger. There you go. So we need to if you want to make a note real quick of that and bug Alex or I afterwards, we totally need to call out Firmware Ninja being specifically Ultimate Enterprise only because it's not there, and it should be. So all right, let's get into it. You've got two different kind of firmwares and collection of files here in the project: Arducopter and ILNL Retro, and this is where we were when we before I realized that we were actually, you know what? I am gonna go back because I can't see chat. I forget about that. Hopefully that's still visible for you. Um, is that all right, Brandon? Let me know if you can still see that.
Yep, I
Okay.
can still see.
Sweet. So where we were right before we realized we hadn't clicked the go live button again. The INL Retro is a flashing board for retro ROMs, like physical cartridges. It can both dump and flash. And so we actually use this in Pwn Adventure Z, which was our NES game that Rusty and Peter and I did a couple years ago, and Alex did a bunch of the audio on it. And so the cartridges we flashed, we use this programmer, and so this was actually the programming, the software, right, that runs on it that then does the flashing. Is that correct?
Yes.
What we got
Yep.
here? Okay.
Yep. ARM firmware runs on the board, and there's what I like about this binary specifically for demonstrating firmware ninjas. There's a lot of accesses to memory mapped I/O.
Which makes sense because it's flashing things, right? Reading and writing. It's got a bunch of different. Let's actually on the board is a whole bunch of different like cartridge slots where you put in all the different types of NES, Super NES, and Game Boy, and some of them, all these different things. So that makes sense that it would have a whole bunch of reading and writing to MMIO for those things. Okay, so this is. Oh, let me close this back down and start fresh, right? So this is the raw file that we're going to open up. We don't have the let's know like database pre-made. This is the initial thing. And you mentioned earlier, we're going to first do an analysis hold, right? Because this is oftentimes useful for firmware. Like if you want to let Binary Ninja go and do a sweep, it can. But if we check this, it's like saying, hey, wait a minute, don't actually do analysis. I want to interactively poke at it, right? That's kind of the workflow there. So I open that up, and there's not much to it, right? All right, so where do I go to next? Sorry, I'm taking away your thunder, Brandon. Tell me where to go.
Yeah, I guess real quick, a brief description of what Firmware Ninja is it's a plugin that is there to aid in analysis of firmware, obviously. And what we mean in this case is it's binaries that run bare metal. Static memory models is where it's most useful, where you have code that's accessing memory mapped I/O directly, or SRAM is mapped at a specific location, and otherwise. And it has features for all different types of firmware. But yeah, what we mean specifically is firmware that runs bare metal. So a lot of microcontroller programs, bootloaders, even kernels, certain real-time operating systems that run bare metal will be another example of the types of binaries that Firmware Ninja is most useful on.
In fact, VxWorks is specifically a platform we only have, right, in Ultimate Enterprise. For that reason, there's a bunch of specific types as an example of the kind of the focus of Firmware Ninja and Ultimate.
Yeah. VxWorks 5 and 6 would be two examples of real-time operating systems where Firmware Ninja would be useful. As you get into like 7 and up, those operating systems get a little bit more complex, where you have isolation between user space and the kernel. But at least at VxWorks 5 and 6, you have static memory models and very similar to a microcontroller program.
All right, so we're looking at just the raw binary. We've done zero analysis, and so the first thing, of course, was I want to figure out like where to load it, right? I guess like the load address.
Yeah, go ahead and this is a feature we unveiled during 4.2. If you go to triage summary, and you can run the automatic base address detection on this binary. And
And this is, to be clear, this is not just in Ultimate, right? This one got put in, I think, commercial or maybe even non-commercial. I don't remember.
yeah, this is actually even in free. I learned
Nice.
at Reverse.
Oh, nice. So it gave me my address. It's got a default 8.0.0.0, so I can just kind of kick it off from there. And that full analysis still won't run because I've got the analysis hole, but it's at least got me on my virtual address. So now I'm not just raw, but I've got it mapped, and it's got the base address there. And I can even see like in the memory map, like where it's mapped, that kind of in memory, right?
Yeah, if you didn't have the analysis hole enabled, it would run analysis.
Go try to find functions, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so then now if you have Firmware Ninja open, if you navigate over to the file entropy, so this is one of the first challenges when looking at raw binaries is knowing where code and data is.
And you can see already like some patterns, right? There's some sections of like nulls and some like higher entropy stuff, all these FFs. So like there's a little bit of stuff visually here. I can tell there's some structure just by kind of scanning through it. But
yeah, and really like what this file entropy tab in Firmware Ninja does is it kind of helps with that. I mean, really what you're doing as a human is you're inspecting the bytes and you're looking for high entropy versus or patterns, repeated patterns that might be tables of pointers, or in this case at the start of the binary you have an interrupt vector table. So if you go ahead and hit the play button on the file entropy.
Sorry, I was getting kicked off on chat. Right, so we're gonna actually have it do the scan, and in this case, with a block size of 4096, it just sees one big chunk. But also that kind of makes sense because there's not a whole lot to this file. Like it's a relatively small file. I can kind of quickly scan through the whole thing.
Right.
So that sort of makes sense. So maybe we can turn that down. Something's much smaller. And there we go. Now we've got a bunch of different bits here.
Yeah. So yeah, what this does is it's computing entropy on the blocks based on the block size, and then blocks with similar entropy values that fall within the code high and code low threshold or above and below it get grouped together. And there's some additional heuristics. Specifically, there's a strings heuristic where if a region falls within the code entropy value, it'll look and determine if there's a large amount of strings in that block, and then it'll overwrite it and switch it to data. So yeah, you can skip through and you can see it identifies padding. It also will identify compressed regions or encrypted regions. They're very high entropy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, what this is intended to do is to help you create, well, one of the things it's intended to do is to help you create sections prior to letting initial analysis run. So yeah, go ahead and shift click and right click and create a section for the code.
Just the stuff that looks kind of like code. We can try this. We can fiddle with it. We can play with the parameters more and get it to automatically do it perfectly, or we can just kind of eyeball it. So like, yeah, that's good enough. Make that code and let it go. So now we should be able to verify like that it's done that. We can see it's got a code section here on top of the memory map. But let's see, do we want to let the analysis hold go, or is there something else we want to do before we do that?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, one thing I wanted to highlight is you'll notice the colored bars below the table there. It's similar to kind of our feature map, but what this is showing is these blocks are based on the entropy, so you can kind of see and identify what sections, at least at a quick glance, how much coverage do you have over top of the binary before you let initial analysis run.
Triage server actually has a similar view up top. Kind of here is also the same sort of entropy map kind of view as well. But yeah, okay, so kill that and let it go.
Yep, go and let analysis run.
All right, and so it's just automatically created a bunch of functions, but like, yeah, so clearly there's some other memory though I'm missing, right? Like this is assuming this base address is correct, and this is where the code is. Obviously, it's trying to do stuff with pointers here into something that I don't have mapped, so I just see like pointer map on it, right? Pointer map.
Yeah, and this is another problem with firmware analysis, specifically on microcontrollers, where You have a lot of code that's interacting with external memory regions. Maybe it's RAM, maybe it's memory mapped IO, but it's not represented in the binary view currently. So if you go ahead and tab over to the memory insights window.
Before we do that real quick, one question from chat was, what's the difference between the two visualizations, like the top and the bottom of these two bars?
The top bar is based on the entropy analysis. The bottom shows the sections that you've created.
Our mapping. That makes sense, right? So what we've done based on these, so we can see where they do and don't overlap. Like, so we just decided to treat this as one big blob, but then we excluded those what was obviously pointers or something else at the beginning there.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. And also, those, Jamie, we talked a little bit. I'm not sure where your question came in relative to our conversation. But did we answer your question more to how Firmware Ninja? We're kind of showing it off, so you'll see what Firmware Ninja is here. Really, this exact plugin here. So it includes these features that most of which will be showing off. And there's also a blog post with a lot more detail as well too. But this is kind of what Firmware Ninja is.
There will be a blog post.
Yeah, well, there's one already from some previous. Isn't there a previous?
No.
Oh man,
there's a blog post on base. Firmware Ninja's never been.
Maybe it was in the last stable release. I think we had the.
No, we didn't even advertise it.
Oh, we didn't tell people. No, you're right. You're right. I forgot about that. No, this is okay. We've been talking about it for so long. I forgot. Yeah. Okay. So I lied. No blog post yet, but forthcoming, and also it's going to be both in the stable release for the 5.0 blog, and I think we'll probably do a dedicated blog with more details. But all right, so we've used the file entropy just to kind of like give us a good overview, just a good workflow for creating our memory maps, and then now we've got some additional ones that we can't identify purely just from analyzing the entropy, right? So going over to what was next, memory insights.
Yep. Go ahead and hit the run button or the
play button. Yep.
And what this does is so Firmware Ninja has a bunch of heuristics that operate on Binary Ninja's IL, and it looks for different patterns that could indicate accesses to memory mapped IO or just external memory in general. The simplest heuristic, for example, is just looking for loads and stores to regions that are not backed by the file.
Which is the same thing I kind of did just manually, right? They just sort of like looking at it, eyeballing it, like, wait a minute, these look like there's something else here, and it's doing the same thing just automatically.
Yeah. These are the types of things as a reverse engineer, you learn to pick up on these patterns. But yeah, we're just looking to develop a workflow around that and streamline that process. So so now that you click that, it kind of boils down and shows all of the accesses to out of bounds memory regions. And then there's some other heuristics as well that look for patterns that could indicate bit banging. For example, repeated loads and stores to the same memory location. Could, like, for example, a spin lock on a control register or something like that. So there are other heuristics as well. So now that you've done that, you kind of get, like, within a single view, if you have a data sheet up in front of you, you can start looking at manually, like, what do these memory regions represent? Or you can also just, in this case, load. We'll start by demonstrating another feature that we have that's part of the 5.0 release, and that's to load an SVD file. And so now you can load an SVD file for this microcontroller, and then go ahead and hit that refresh icon.
So now we can just see in the memory map all these extra new sections. We've got GPIO, flash, CRC, a whole bunch of DMA, a bunch of that being added. And so now we're going to reload that.
Yeah. So you'll see these memory regions are now starting to be filled in. And those accesses begin to make a little bit more sense. So yeah, for example, that access is accessing the GPIO memory mapped peripheral. And but you'll notice that like most SVDs, SVDs are often missing mapping. SVDs only have the mappings in them that the manufacturer really wants you as a firmware developer to access. for example, when you're writing firmware for a microcontroller, you generally get a development board and an SDK from that manufacturer, and things like the I don't know, the nested interrupt controller. They don't want you to access directly, even though their bootloader might need to.
Yeah. But when you're reversing, you need to know about that, right? So you got to figure that out, analyzing the
So yeah, or say you don't have an SVD. If you go over to the board descriptions, and you go ahead and hit the magnifying glass button. So in Firmware Ninja, we bundle boards for over 1,000. We bundle descriptions for over 1,000 boards that describe the start and end regions for memory map peripherals. So in this case, when you hit that magnifying glass button, what it did is it used the memory insights analysis, and it iterated through all of the boards and all of the device mappings for each board. And it kept track of what boards or what devices were accessed for each board. And then it kind of just trickled up and only displayed possible boards based on the memory accesses.
Just looking at the unique count here, this one stands out. I think most of the others have high total counts, but like under unique kind of mappings, this appears to be the most relevant, right?
Yeah, and that tends to be the case often, where unique generally is the highest. But obviously, that's going to be firmware dependent. You might have very little code that's accessing memory mapped hardware peripherals, and likewise, you could have just repeated patterns accessing the same peripheral over and over. Where this feature may be a little bit less useful, but at the very least, it's useful in boiling down to the possible boards.
And so real quick in chat, Joe, I know you were the people who had asked about the previous SVD plugins. So if you probably were following the issues and already saw it, but we've shipped the SVD loader, I believe, in all versions. Mason, if you're still watching, correct me. I think all the versions got the actual SVD loader, and it's now built in to the base product. And so that's not a part of the SVD loading itself is not a part of it, but this board description database and the automatically matching it is a part of Firmware Ninja. So there was a sub like a plugin that we originally were writing to do SVD loading, but it ended up getting pulled into the core. And yeah, it's not free yet, right? Because we haven't done it, right? Perfect, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so sorry to cut you off, Brandon. So go ahead and just double click this now, or if I want to load this one.
Now that you click that, you can see
down below, yeah,
all of the releases. So go to the bottom, scroll all the way down. Two mappings that were omitted from the SVD are
and I remember seeing these exact addresses too. Yeah, just looking through the list before, I remember seeing those in the memory, like here, right? Literally, that was one of the regions that wasn't actually mapped yet. So that's an easy way to kind of manually I can see it. So then do those.
Yeah, right click and you can create memory regions.
So now if I go back and refresh, I should see, okay, there we go. So now all of this memory except maybe some other things which might be misrecognizing or very low. Yeah, those constants probably don't.
Yeah, in some cases, like so Firmware Ninja is actually really good at recognizing where there's broken data flow too, or even where Linux Suite creates bad functions.
Yeah.
And actually in multiple occasions, I've had it find actual null pointer dereference bugs.
That's hilarious. So like, so I mapped to 0 and you're like, I know, like that's correct.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, yeah, so now like if you filter up in the search, if you go ahead and type in flash, you can, so for this particular board, there's the flash controller can lock the flash device so that the code can't access flash. However, the flash controller supports a flash unlocking sequence by which you can write to the key register.
Well, there's these values, these weird values right here, like
yeah. So I mean, generally when you're looking at a microcontroller and you're reversing a microcontroller, you're looking at the data sheet along with it. And maybe you want to know, how does this code unlock and reprogram itself? How does it, when I'm giving in a firmware update, how does it flash that code into flash? And so you look at that data sheet and it describes the flash unlocking sequence in the data sheet. I'm looking at it right now. And go ahead and search in that bar.
It's probably just in there, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can see it, like if you look at the key R, but go ahead and search. You can also search immediates. Go ahead and search 0x45670123.
Yeah, so if you knew that from the data sheet, you could go right to that access here. I mean,
Right.
I was looking around, but I could have gone right to those two spots from that too. Nice.
Yep. And that'll take you right to the code. So yep.
And there's a nice little spin lock here too that you mentioned earlier, or another good pattern, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Spin lock on the status register. Wait until the controller's ready to, to write to flash.
Sweet.
So, yeah, and then if we have time for it, you can always pop open that Articopter binary.
Let's go local. And this is one. So that one was literally from scratch, just using it, right? But this one is one that you've already marked up. You've already run some of this, so we're not going to do the full. We've already
this
got
is one where
mappings and.
Yeah. Firmware Ninja. If you open up Firmware Ninja, it's got Memory Insights has already been ran in this one. I like this binary. This is a flight controller firmware for an Arducopter drone. So like if you search, for example, in the Memory Insights for CAN, you can see, go ahead and sort this section. By click it again.
Or just scroll to the bottom. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that works too. So yeah, you can look at the different CAN devices. Go ahead and in this case also go ahead and type in flash. And then let's demonstrate reference trees.
Sure.
Flash controller.
So this is the data that got pulled in by either the board description or something else. I assume board description, not SVD.
Yep.
Yeah, and then it's just got this whole like structure with comments about this particular region of memory. But sorry, I'm going to now that I got that. Where am I going again?
Yeah, go ahead and click the reference trees. So the icon on the little blue icon. Right. And go ahead and click on flash, not in the binary view, but in the table.
In the table here or in?
Yeah, just expand the table out and underneath the section column, go ahead and click on flash. You can click it, anywhere really. But yeah, so what that drop down below shows is all of the functions that are directly accessing the flash controller or indirectly accessing the flash controller through the call tree. So if you're just interested is like from a specific point in code, like, I don't know, can this function either directly or indirectly access the flash controller? You can build these reference trees to the flash controller. Likewise, if you click on that flash.cc or whatever, like underneath the access column, it'll filter it down even more. That might be a bad example, but these are the reference trees that are specifically accessing that controller status register. And then also, if you click under the value region, you'll be able to see where is the code that is writing OX32 to the flash ACR controller status register. So if you're looking at a data sheet again, and OX32 means it has a specific meaning in the context of how it drives that hardware peripheral. You can search for that.
So
you see the whole call stack for it. Yeah, and actually, this is a good time for a shout out to Kyle, who's just earlier today at Insomniac just presented Tonto 2.0, which is kind of a similar idea. Like he's focusing on like graph analysis and program slicing and variable slicing and looking at across the binary, right? You've got control flow, call graph relationships between things, or maybe even basic block, and got a whole bunch of really, really cool ways of slicing that data. Hopefully they'll put the videos online. If not, we'll have to get him to come on stream and kind of talk about it, or I think his slides are already up, or will be available. I'll have to double check with him on that. But this is sort of a similar thing where you're saying like, I want to see like the sort of call relationship. I want to see this tree, this sort of slice of like the program for this usage or for this data variable or for this write to this data variable. Show me kind of all the calls up through the stack. So that's a really nice visualization.
Yeah, yeah. In this case, it even stretches to data variables because so if you're looking at this reference tree, for example, it traces all the way back to the interrupt vector table. So you can see the bus fault handler and the usage fault handler in that tree.
Mm-hmm.
Those entries are in the interrupt vector table. Those data variables.
Right up top, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
Cool.
yeah, one last thing in Memory Insights. If you go ahead and type DMA, I really like this for this sample. And yeah, go ahead and look in the section column and find where it shows DMA. And yeah, DMA1. And if you scroll down, I think you'll see references to in the reference tree to maybe it's maybe it's DMA2. Try DMA2.
Ethernet DMA 1 and 2 just look like.
Oh yeah, it's just initializing it, not using it. Go ahead and click Ethernet DMA.
Maxstar release
Yeah.
transcriptor.
Yeah, in either case, I must be thinking of a different sample where, but I believe in one of the samples I was looking at, the DMA controller is actually used to speak drop shot protocol, which is like an engine control unit protocol. Uses direct memory access. So I was hoping to show that in the reference tree, but yeah, at any rate, as you go through, like the Ethernet DMA, it demonstrated the same thing. It showed all of the things that are responsible for network communications on this particular microcontroller. And the only last thing I want to speak to is relationships. And so what that relationships tab is a way by which you can define interbinary relationships inside of a Binary Ninja project. So for example, if you know you're looking at a board, it's got two microcontrollers, they communicate over a CAN bus. And you know, in binary A, CAN1 is the name of the peripheral, and binary B, CAN3 is the peripheral. You can basically define these relationships inside of Firmware Ninja and associate the mappings between those sections inside of relationships, and then easily navigate. Yeah, for example, if you create a relationship, you can, that's Ethernet DMA, and then you can give it a symbol there. You can just give it anything, honestly, just for demonstration. And then if you click external file, go ahead and give it the INL retro. Actually, it needs to be another Binary Ninja database.
I don't know if I have any.
Yeah, it can be any.
Most of these are all raw binaries to demonstrate stuff. I don't think I actually have any saved here.
Okay.
Anyway.
So yeah, give it an internal location and not specify the external file. So if you click cancel there, you can give it another symbol that's internal to this binary, or you can give it an address or the name of a function, and then you can describe that relationship. Obviously, an example of an intra-binary relationship would be something like cross-references or otherwise, but in the case of like an inter-binary relationship where you have two firmware samples that run on two separate microcontrollers, might be, oh, CAN1 is connected to CAN3. You can define that here, and then it'll populate that table, and then you can easily navigate using our projects API, or it uses our projects API to easily navigate.
Really, just as you double-click references, it takes you right to it, basically.
Yeah. Basically, you'll double-click on the secondary entity, and it'll drop you into the other binary. So, I mean, if you think about it from the perspective of like a TCP server client, if you were reversing the client and the server at the same time and trying to understand those communications, that would be a good use case for relationships.
Or even the Ethernet DMA, right? If I actually had the Ethernet controller itself in a separate session or separate binary, and I wanted to from there map where it was getting the same values, right? Like you could.
Yeah, absolutely. So you had the firmware for the NIC, for the network interface card, pulled up in a separate tab, being able to define those relationships and jump back and forth as they're communicating via memory mapped IO.
Makes sense. All right. We gotta wrap it up. We got lots more to cover. So thank you, though. I appreciate it, Brandon.
All right. Thank you.
All right, let's let him go. Let's see, close this down, and I promise we won't take 30 minutes for all the features. I do not need a 4-hour stream. So we'll be a little bit quicker. That one just had a lot of stuff that's happened on it. That was great. So, all right, next up we have the stack array and structure creation feature. So this one is, so a lot of these you'll notice for people that are familiar with our kind of how we do our test streams, you've seen this before, but this is the Binary Ninja project. I'm using it on the enterprise server, but all commercial clients have access to just a project, which is kind of the organization. That's also what Brandon alluded to when you were talking about mapping things between binaries. You can do that with projects. But on the enterprise server, it just lets me synchronize things. So other coworkers are pushing things to create this structure and pushing the files here. But the versions of Binja that we have to use for some of these are only on test branches, so they're not available yet. They're just in internal testing. But well, a couple customers have access to it. So if the customers that are watching on the stream that have test branch access, they'll see the test versions of the things that I'm running, and they'll be able to get access to these real early. So here's one, for example. This is the stack array creation. There we go. So this one is actually super fun. Rusty's been working on this, and it turned into something even recently as yesterday that is very exciting. So let's make sure I get the right one. I am on 7033, which I'm on. So let's first go the array test. And the idea is that this has been one of our biggest kind of outstanding features. It's just the lack of stack array detection. Like when you open up a binary, if I open up, for example, my other dev version of the same file, you'll see I don't get like automatic array detection. So even when there's an obvious for loop iterating over a character array, you can go ahead. Yeah, you can ask in Slack. And if you have demonstrated good bug reports and good features and give good feedback, that is something that we do surprise people with. So there is a special channel just for people who provide exceptionally good feedback and issues, and they get access to some of these things a little bit earlier. But this also tends to be a little bit spicier. So like, for example, like I said, this particular binary, there's a little bit of regressions that are happening. It's not quite ready to go out on dev, and so this one, it's only early testing. But yeah, so just to be clear, if I switch back and forth, this is the new one. So 7033 is the new version. And you can see I'm automatically detecting the array here. Let me pull up my notes too, make sure I got those handy. Yeah, so that one's super clear that like there's just arrays automatically being made. Actually, I think I pull up just the yeah, you can see there's more too, right? Some of the other ones, different sizes. There's a 32 one. Yeah, where's for 190? Let's see. Yeah, exactly. Very nice. Yeah, so it's detecting different sizes. So that's super nice. It was one of the big, yes, exactly, Robert. A lot of the times when you have these gray, in fact, you see them here, like you'll see like variables where it's like not really sure what's happening. It's low confidence or it's just an unknown type or whatever. There's gaps in the actual, the variables here where there's like gaps between these things, but just know what the types are. You'll see that we've actually got real array support there now. So that's where it started, and it's actually one of our most popular, I think, open issues. So it's a really common one. It's something that Geeter and I both have done a better job than us historically. So exciting to have that. And then Rusty just one more thing to us, and then as he was working on it, implemented this. And so let's look at this one, which this is basically structure type propagation. So this is really nice if you have like a structure. Let's see what's a good example. Let me double check. Let's actually just go to here. Yeah, there we go. So look at this. We're instantly straight into the correct structure here for this WND class EXA, which is a parameter to actually, where is it being? Oh, there we go. Register class EXA, right? So the fact that this parameter is being passed in here, and so just for comparison, here's our current dev, and here's the same binary. And yeah, exactly. Look wildly different, right? So the fact that we're essentially getting the types, we had the structure type here before. We knew that this was the correct thing here. We just weren't propagating this back to the parameter that was passed in. And so clearly like significantly better decompilation. So this should help a ton. So any of the, like, especially in Windows binaries where there's a lot of structure types that we know for like a lot of the Win32 API calls, um, it's just, yeah, that's just so much better. So that's super exciting. Like I said, it was a little bit of a bonus one that came in at the last minute there. So you should see some really nice improvements. Yeah, there's the kind of before, there's the after. Obviously, that's very nice on that one. Yeah. And on that note, Robert, there's some of the other ones later on here too are on that note. It just, your default experience in a lot of binaries just is getting really, really clean and good. Actually, you can see one of the other ones. I'll actually even allude to it here since Rusty's also the one that did it. But these super long wide lines, right, was one of our most commonly requested feature improvements. So you'll notice that this is automatically splitting this really long line for us now. And if I had done this on a stable, which I don't think I have one handy and open, but y'all have all seen it before. If you used Binder Ninja previously, this would have been just one really long line that would have been much harder to read. So line wrapping is also another new feature, which is really cleaning things up. All right, so next one up, I'm proud to say Vector 35 supports unions. I mean, not to, yeah, sorry. No, the feature about unions. There's been a lot of jokes about like unions, union busting, union supporting internally, but this is very, very exciting. Unions are now here, and let's switch over to that branch. You can pull that one up here. So this is, I think this actually, let's go double check this, because I think this is actually our #1 most requested. Actually, no, let's go over here. Issues. Actually, no, let's just clear this out and do it the other way. Let's do it support or sort by issues, reactions, thumbs up. Yeah, give me the most thumbs up. Better union support has double. No, Greyhead, we didn't. We haven't moved to different icons yet. That's a good question. If Glenn is still watching, it's that's been something that he has local testing that we haven't gone with. But the different colors for different versions or different dev versus stable versus personal, ultimate, and enterprise. Something we've at some point we probably will get around to it. But yeah, so just looking at this, you can tell better union support is our, by a huge margin, #1 feature, and it's very close to landing now. So there's already the APIs landed a couple weeks ago that let this happen. Yeah, exactly. Which one is which is the question. So the better APIs landed a couple weeks ago, and now Ryan's been working on some of the usability, the workflows around it. So we had the ability to sort of internally split type usage, which then lets us apply types to a certain variable usage at one spot and then somewhere else separately. And then when you've got unions, you have to be able to choose it in the UI to represent like which one of a union you want to do at that spot. And so this is, yeah, it's obviously super important for like kernels. There's a lot of things that comes up in. So let's go over to, let's actually kill this one and go back over here, this one. And let's do message manager first, I think. Yeah, let's do that one. All right. So this is message manager.sys, some kernel driver. I'm not even sure where it came from. It was one of the ones Ryan was using in his testing. So if I go to, let's see if I get this. Yeah, this address here, we can see we've got this, we know this is an IRP structure, right? And so we can pull it up in there and see the type of it. We've got this type overlay, and I don't do a whole lot of Windows kernel reverse engineering, so I have to follow the directions carefully. But the idea here is that there's this new menu here. You'll see this field resolution, right? And this, we can say that like there's a union here. It could be one of multiple things. You can choose which one. And you'll notice there's actually 2 sections here. There's a little line that separates this last one. There's no other kind of possible value. This one doesn't seem to resolve cleanly with what we know about the usage at this location. So it's actually already hinting to us it's probably one of these, like if there's like multiple dereferences deep or whatever, it can actually kind of figure out which one it is. So I think he said current stack location is the right one to use here. So we'll set that one up there, and we can actually see that we've propagated it from that point forward. It's just going to automatically use it as that member. So we're going to resolve that that way, which is super nice. Again, this is like been wanted by a lot of folks. One other point that I can make in this goes well with, you notice that arg2 actually took this other one, and there's multiple calls to it, but there could have been like other calls to it with different types. But because I want to just propagate that straight in, I can actually use the Q hotkey, which is forward propagate function type. So we're saying like, look, this type here, this struct that we've got, I want to propagate that into the call. So I can just each one of these calls, I could do that. And now if I look in here, I can see also those calls also got the same structure, same type, and we've got this here. But now this one's, maybe it's create, or maybe I want to change that to something else, right? So I can actually choose something more specific at that point from the unions. And there's, again, this is why kernels, it's super important. So thanks, Joe. Yeah, there was a lot of debate about how to do this. Obviously, it gets a little big when there's something like this where it's so big. We debated whether a dialogue, and I think for now we're going with this menu is pretty quick. Actually, can we even do? Yeah, it's in the command palette. So that's the other key thing about this, because it's in the command palette. Oops, I hit escape point too many times. I can select one of these and there's Command P and then type the name of whatever I want. So if it's create pipe or whatever it is, I can type it there and hit enter too. So using the power of the command palette as the right click menu too, you've got a lot of ability to root things. Let's go ahead and look at the other one as well, the afd.sys. Let's see, afd.sys. So there's an AFD connect function. There we go, which again takes an IRP. And so arg1 is that. Arg2 is actually apparently, where is that passed in? I think that's supposed to be a IO stack location. I got that in my history there. So there we go. We can set the type for arg2 to that. And we can see a whole bunch. There we go. And then we've got, again, same thing, parameters create, and there's some offset. So it's not actually create here, obviously, right? Like this is incorrect. So let's take one of these and just say like, no, we know it's not offset 18. It's not actually in create. So it's got to be one of the other ones. So let's go look at that. And again, we can see the ones it's got and the ones it doesn't. So, oh no, let's actually say maybe that was any one of these, right? Like device IO control, for example. And so now we're going to treat that as device IO control. And now these are all device IO control down here, right? So those usage are gonna essentially propagate it. That's impressive. Download a V1 version. I haven't done that in a long time myself. I think I've gone back as far as 2.0 the last time I was looking for, because we'll do it for regression testing sometimes, or to go compare things. That's crazy. Which platform was that? Like on Windows or Mac or Linux? I know a couple of them, it doesn't always work, but that's fun. So yeah, this is really exciting. This is probably, I think, like I said, the most requested feature. It's one of the big headliners. So like this one and a couple of other ones really are big performance or big feature enhancements that people have been asking about for a while. I think they're really gonna work well. And there's a lot of nice things too, where this will automatically let you set things in certain contexts. Forward propagate it automatically, but then you can also go back above it and like split it in the UI to have different usages or different parts of the union depending on where it's being used, if you want to do that. So lots of cool features there. Super exciting. Again, all the features that are only on test branches I think should be on dev within the next week. Peter, correct me if I'm wrong. I forget our internal data. Like give or take a week or two. We'll see. You should see most of these or all of these test features will be on dev. So if you're a dev user, this is all coming soon. It's coming together very quickly now. All right, let's go back to our project. What we got next? Okay, so kernel cache. All right, let's switch to our kernel cache build, and let's open kernel cache. So this one actually borrowed from the some of the other code that was around. And let's see, I think, does it have a, yeah, the kernel cache triage. There we go. So much like our DSC dialib cache, oh, the only OS people are still using 10 years later. Sorry. It is, yeah, it's true. It's true. You know, but that's also the advantage. Windows wins for backwards compatibility in that you cannot run Binja from 10 years ago on Linux or Mac, I don't think. Not out of the box. I don't think that would work. There we go. So, and let's do yeah, Cat recommends this one because it's a little bit smaller. So again, much like the DSC, you can load this by just double clicking one of the images and it will automatically load it into your memory map. And we can pull up a specific symbol. We could find, oh, maybe, is it gonna load? Or did I hit an arrow? I may have showed off something that wasn't quite there yet, but yeah, so we've got now that all of the, that Mako essentially loaded in to its appropriate virtual address there, and we'll be able to like load in multiple things, much like you could for DSC. So if you've been doing, that's a good line, Valgrind. Win32 is the stable Linux API with Steam Proton especially. I think that's actually fair. So yeah, so this is yeah, really we're seeing that the DSC support, which came out in an alpha during the last stable, has had a ton of work. And so I do want to shout out to I think I did put in my notes here. Yes, so B-Dash and I'm not going to try to pronounce Wei En. I'm not sure your full handle pronunciation. Is it too late for me? Am I just not recognizing that? But for both B-Dash and Wei have done a ton of work submitting PRs and that. We really appreciate that. You can just see that here. Literally just go look at the open PRs and they have both done a ton. In fact, here you can look even better, look at the closed ones. The amount of like work that they've each been putting into to the shared cache is awesome. We really appreciate that. You won't see a whole lot different. So if you've been doing DSC work, it's still just going to kind of work the same. I think the functionality and the features were sort of there from the beginning of what people wanted. Really, we've been working on like bug fixes, performance, significantly faster. So you're going to see that working way better. But yeah, it's coming out of alpha in the next release, so that's pretty exciting. We're going to have both the kernel share cache and the dialib share cache shipping. Yeah, so again, those are part of this big kind of 5.0. It's like these are all some pretty major features that are landing. So let me switch to the latest dev here, and let's go to C-Sky. So we've had C-Sky support. This isn't new, but what is new is, well, it sort of is. It turns out we had a customer report a file to us. They're like, hey, you said you had C-Sky support, and I tried this thing, and it didn't work real well. And we went and looked at it, and we're like, yeah, I guess that's like a totally different C-Sky, like completely different. Actually, the instruction set is wildly different. The red, like everything about the architecture basically changed. It's called C-Sky still, but it's very different. So we're not listing support for a new architecture, but we basically have support for new architecture. In fact, I think is it MCore? If Alex is on, he can correct me. I think you mentioned a while ago, but it's very similar. It looks like there's some lineage from MCore back to C-Sky v1, and then C-Sky v2 was kind of a rewrite. And so now we have support for both of those. So this is one of the very few kind of in the wild binaries we could find for that version, and it's a just busybox UC-libc self-contained binary, and yeah, decom's working. Like it's there. So there's still probably a little bit of work to be done. In particular, linear sweep on this appears to be not great. We probably need to do some work to identify why it's pulling some things that it shouldn't. I actually don't see any obvious ones now. This mostly looks clean. Maybe calling convention or stuff, but yeah, some of these we might hit some junk data here that's the result of a bad decomp. So there might be some extra functions that we need to clean up. So still a little bit of work ongoing, but Alex did a great job with this. Like literally was trying to fix a small bug, and it turned into support for basically a brand new architecture. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it was MCore. Thanks, Mason. And yes, I'm so trendy. I'm using Ghost TTY. I know. I do like it. It's actually quite nice. This one hasn't been fully configured yet, but that's what I'm running on my desktop. Got to be on the latest and greatest. All right, so let's go back. C Sky and Mason. Now we're going to talk about your stuff. So now we've got the RTTI. So let me bring up that one. And Mason, you can answer in chat because you're here. Is this waiting on review, or are there features or bug fixes you're working on before this one goes on dev? So if the developer's here in chat, I can ask them when people can try it. So to clarify, we have currently on dev and have had, I think, at least since last stable, if not before that. Oh, is that what it is? It's yeah, that's right. Oh, I remember you saying this. Okay, so yeah, MSVC RTTI has been unstable. It was originally something that Mason worked on. Yeah, what was that? I could pull that up probably, I bet, in the blog. Yep, it was Frogstar. So 4.2 added MSVC RTTI, and I think even on the stream somebody had a question. Exactly, Scott. Itanium. Yep, so now we have GCC and Clang both use Itanium's RTTI format. And so if I switch to the right one, let's go try one of these. Oh, because I've got to open the other project, right? Let's close that. Let's close that. Let's open that. There we go. Okay, so here's Clang in a Mach-O. I assume it was Clang. It didn't have to be, I guess. Could have been GCC. And so I think if we go pick up, or there's a couple addresses here, we can see some like V tables that we're pulling out of. We can let analysis finish here too. Yeah, that makes sense. So the reason it's not on dev yet, it's just he's kind of merge these two different ways of doing things. In particular, he was saying that the way that they implemented the RTTI on GCC versus, or on Itanium versus the MSVC, they make some different assumptions about whether they have the full data types or the full like chain, or if they're more like static or dynamically linked. And so there's just some differences that need to be resolved. He's gotta make some tweaks. Did I open the wrong Binja? I did. Good call. And that's why it's not doing it. Good catch. Thank you very much. All right, let's try this again. Close that project. All right. Now we'll go straight to it this time. Much better. Oh, there we go. That looks a little bit cleaner. So before we had the debug, we just had the symbol that we were able to pull out, but now we're actually pulling the full type information. So now we've actually got a real struct here. So yeah, so if you've been doing, sorry, Mason. No, not you. It's me. It's me. Yep. So you'll see it like right now. It's not doing currently is it's not like creating the full like class hierarchy necessarily, but it is going to pull out the V tables, which should improve a lot of your analysis. You can actually seeing them being used here. So yeah, so if you were working with anything that had RTTI information, doing some C++ that was not done by MSVC, hopefully your life is gonna be better real soon. As soon as Mason lands this. Anything I missed, Mason? You want me to point out? Let me double check my notes. Oh yeah, I think this is cool. So also the metadata is exposed too, so we can actually so the auto metadata actually has the RTTI information. And if I spell it right even, yeah, we'll be able to pull it out from there. Yeah, let us know, Scott. Let us know how it goes. Hopefully it works for you, but there you go. So you've actually got the metadata to do things you want with it yourself, as well as it should just be automatically loaded in. So very cool. All right, what is next? Let us actually close that down so I don't keep the project open. And URL handlers. Yes, so the latest dev, actually I didn't test this. Sometimes on Mac OS you have to like make sure you've done this the right way. So let's quit this and let's reopen. Let's reopen it just to make sure. And we can now open up, oh no, I do need the other version. That's right. Wrong one. Let's pull that up. URL handlers. I will say this one, yeah, Galen has had the base feature done for quite a while, but we were doing some review and testing internally, and so that this hopefully very soon will land. But okay, so now that I've got that one open last, I should be able to. So if you're not aware, you can do this, and actually the docs describe this. You could open Binary Ninja with, if you like opening files, saving files, loading files. We describe here that one of the ways you can open a file is with URL handler. So I can literally just open this this path, and my browser's like, are you sure? And then Binja's like, are you sure? Oh, there we go. Oh no, yeah, see, this is what I'm afraid of. This is the problem with being a demo machine with like a million different ones. It's depending on how they're being run. There's multiple versions of it, not all of which have the new features. So I'm just gonna do it this way directly. But the idea is that you could trigger the URL handler from your OS, and if you don't have 15 versions of Binja installed like I do, you won't have that problem. Some of these things are just developer-only problems for us at Vector35. But you'll be able to actually put in a URL. Like you could, like I said, you could always do this. You could always specify a local file path. Like you could put in a path to a file. You can do this even from a the local network privacy prompt. Oh, I know, on Mac OS where it's like, hey, are you sure? Hey, are you sure? So you can now, by the way, welcome B-Dash. Hope you heard earlier when I shouted you out. We appreciate everything you're doing. Where is it? Open URL. There we go. So we've had this open URL. This isn't new, but what is new is the ability to access like enterprise URLs. So for example, this is the feature stream Gallifrey. Oh no, I put spaces in it. Let's try it. So let's see. Actually, no, it's even better. Let's do it this way. Let's go grab this project and grab, say, this PEBAR file and copy as a URL, right? And so that URL is actually the full name of the server, like the hash of the project and the file. And so if I actually now open the URL and paste that in, it's going to open directly to that file. And now this is really nice if you want to like link to something else. You can have your own infrastructure that links around between files and opens things up. Like you can have a web browser that or a web app like you've got that like will point to local files, or it could point to like URLs that are remote, or now it can support to enterprise files, which is super handy. This also has fixed up a lot of the things with like what if you have it open? What if you don't have it open? What if the project is here? So there's a lot of like little edge cases in that takes us from like a relatively simple feature to something that requires a lot of planning and testing to kind of get right. But yeah, you can copy that URL and you can even go directly to like offsets, right? Like you could go to this virtual address too. In the URL, you can actually add like the same syntax as in the docs, this expression syntax with offsets or addresses. You can actually add that in. So if I give it that URL, now here's a good example. That file is already open, but I could open that URL and do expression equals sub underscore 12064de0, for example. Go right to a function, right? So open up the project, open up the file itself, open up the function, or whatever symbol it is, or whatever the expression is that you've given it. There's a whole bunch of things that's the same thing as the G dialog, basically. Anything you can do there, including math and dereference pointers, you can do in the URL handler. And so that can also now support enterprise servers, which is pretty sweet. So, all right, let me take a little sip. Any questions from you guys? I'm like just blowing through here, kind of get my checklist done. But if there's anything that's oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, let me catch up on chat and just look through. So yeah, mode with the hotkey is not bad for the field selector too, Joe. Although I kind of feel like maybe the command palette just does it. We also have a plan long term to have like a sort of a version of the command palette that like you can kind of select a group or a subset of, like specifically like trigger the command palette, but filter on just the subset of things, which kind of actually gives you a lot of what you want there too, maybe. So some other models that we're thinking of. Oh no, Valgrant's talking about bitwise struct support. So yeah, we'll see. There's actually a little bit of rumor that we might have a way to do bitwise without a major overhaul. And the original estimate was a lot more than 4 months, but that's the odds of that actually being looked at have gone up a little bit, but no promises. We'll see. It could happen. I know that what are you going to do when you run out of like things to complain about? Hello, Karu. Welcome. And let me keep going back, make sure I didn't miss any other comments. Let's see. I think there's enough other binary people. Hopefully people. Yeah, Eternity. That Infinite NES Lies is exactly the folks that the INL programmers from. They're great. They're really good. So, oh, I see what you're saying, Jamie. So to your comment earlier about, if you're still on, the Firmware Ninja being a sort of feature in Ultimate. Yeah, we don't want that to not mean support for different like SVD formats and stuff. Like again, that's just in the core. We're putting that in all the versions, but it does mean that some of the like more advanced firmware stuff might end up a little bit higher. So we'll see. We definitely try to split things where it's only, yeah, what we want to do is if it's something that you're doing for work, that it ends up in Ultimate or Enterprise, and if it's or commercial, and if it's something that people want to have a good reason for home, either go to our sponsorship page, because if you're doing like some like open source or community research, we do actually upgrade people for free. So there are times where people are doing like cool work, and we actually probably have to have some more we need to add to this list. So there's some that we upgrade them to commercial or Ultimate. They just pay for the personal, but we give them the upgrade because what they're doing is really cool. So yeah. Oh, and Brandon missed Michael saying hi. All right, I think I caught up most of the chat there. Let's see if we got any new ones. Ooh, Glenn, that's a good point. It's too bad Firefox is even lower on my priority list. Letting it like choose which version of Ninja gets the URL is kind of nice. All right. Leland. Okay, so I assume you're going to be talking about, like, for example, like the one we've talked about this a lot. Like, there's a couple of weird architectures, Hexagon being one of them, and a few others that need. Actually, yeah, Glenn, you and I were just talking about this. It's yeah, tell me the name of it. Josh, welcome. Invoke. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think we need container support as much as we thought we did, Valgrind. We've realized that like it's not blocking us from some of the stuff we thought we should. But we're gonna leave Crazy Bomb. Crazy Bomb has to be like deep lore that we're gonna never solve, just because if we do, the streams would end. Like what else would we talk about, right? So yeah, the issue, Glenn, that we call it function at a time, but there's another name for it. It's I don't think that's the name of it. I forget the name of the function. No, it is. There we go. Function level. This is it. So this is probably, Leland, the thing that you were mentioning. If you're writing architectures or you're adding support for at a time versus lifting with context, that's true. Those are slightly different, aren't they? Let me look for that. Context aware, you start to lifting support. Yeah. So these are probably the two most requested. Actually, y'all should be up. We should be upvoting this more, because I know that these are definitely important ones. This one actually is. So this one we've told people and pointed people to. Yeah, hex. So there is no, to answer your question, Joe. iHex is just supported by default now. We were going to work that around by making changes to our APIs, and then one of the the things that one of our guys was working on just kind of needed it near term, so he implemented it. Brian implemented it in the core, so it's just a first class supported feature. So downside is it's not exposed as an API. It didn't make sense for what he was working on for him to do at the time. But we do have, like, you can just open up IX files and they should just work now basically automatically. So we have built in, when we landed with the SVD support, we did land hex support, hex SVD, and one other one. Mason, do you remember which one it was? I forget the exact ones. So yeah, good news, bad news. Bad news is we don't plan to fix it in a way that lets you extend it yourself. Good news is you don't need to, at least for those. And if there's other ones that you need it for that are similar, let us know, and either we can add them or we can revisit that. Right, exactly, Robert. So this is the BV context, right? The idea is that sometimes when you're doing lifting as an architecture, you want to know more about state, essentially, right? You want to know more about what's happening around you. Like, am I in a specific CPU mode, or I can't just, like, in isolation disassemble bytes, which is kind of how our stuff assumes. Oh, there we go. TI text srec ihex. That's what it is. Oh, right. SVD is totally unrelated. Sorry. I should have conflated the two. Thank you. Yeah. No, I know the difference. Yeah, and SVD is specifically ARM, isn't it? They're the first ones that I think started doing it. Originally, they were only ARM, I want to say, because it used to be you can go to the ARM website and grab them all. But yeah, the sort of text formats that we thought we needed containers are ihex, TI text, and srec. They're just in now. You should just be able to just straight up open those files and have it work and do what you want. So let us know if not. That's another one. But yeah, this is okay. So this here is if you've got an architecture where you want to know more of the state about it when you're doing your lifting. It's kind of, we've conflated it with this one. And this is where, like, certain architectures maybe have like packetization, or again, like Hexagon's one of those, or it's weird things where, like, you don't want to have the traditional Binja model of disassembling and lifting where you sort of like have to just get a chunk of bytes and you just do it. You need to really know more about the state of a function. This is also blocking us for things like virtual machines, like we mentioned here. So .NET and Java, they'll have metadata. Like when you call a function, you're not transferring an instruction pointer to the beginning bytes of an opcode, and then, the CPU is executing and running it. Rather, the interpreter just goes there, reads the metadata, and then we'll do some stuff. And so this is a feature that would be needed for a lot of those weird architectures, for also a lot of the virtual platforms. So these two issues, they're not actually currently on a milestone yet, but they're very close to, I think, popping up on a future release. So they're definitely not making G, maybe H, maybe not, maybe after that, but pretty close. Like, I think we've started to focus on some of the architectures that would require it ourselves. So selfishly, some of the things that we're thinking about doing, like Hexagon in Ultimate, for example, requires us to solve this at a minimum ourselves, and so we're probably gonna land on having to implement this in the core. And even if you don't use Ultimate, it still means you can implement your own architectures on top of the core with that. So yeah, so Arch plugins are a single global dynamic library, but the problem is you can open up multiple BVs at the same time, right? So that's the issue. Like right now, there's a couple of hacks people try to work around it, but yes, doing this here and making it explicitly like allowed would help. So cool. All right. Yeah, let me know if y'all got any other questions. I'll try to stay caught up. And let's go back to our rest of our feature list. We got more Binja fun to be had, right? So debugger. Okay, so Shusheng is cranking away, and I am gonna cop out a little bit, and we're gonna play a video that he gave. Is there a full screen view? Wow, great. There's gotta be a full screen, right? Oh, set under video, sure. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and we're gonna watch the video here for one of the features that Shusheng's been working on. Yeah, you're very welcome, Leland. Yeah, exactly. It's being prepared. It's also being nice to Shusheng for time zones, and nice to me, so I don't have to fully do it. Oh yeah, Robert, we'll get there. We'll get there. This in particular, well, here, I'll let it speak for itself. So let's
All right, so if you have been following our development of the debugger, you probably have heard of the Windowbug time travel debugging integration in our debugger, which I hope you all enjoy. Now we are bringing a new integration with the RR project. So RR is a time travel debugging solution on Linux, and it's if you want to analyze the Linux executable, so you can use RR to record its execution and then replay it. Now, here I have RR installed already, and I will be recording a trace with a hello world binary I have locally. So I will be running RR record and then provide the command line, the executable followed by the command line arguments. And this is actually a very simple binary. It just prints whatever arguments it has. So, and then I will just be spawning a GDB server on the local host on the port 31337. These can all be configured, but I'm just using this as a demonstration. So within Binary Ninja, we have this binary opened, and you can see here we have a new GDB RSP adapter, and it asks you for a IP address and a port. So let's just start debugging by connecting to a remote process and click accept. All right, so it is now stopped at the very beginning of the program execution, which is at the start of the loader, which we're not interested in. So I will just resume the target, and it will get to the start of the binary, the entry point of the binary. Now let's just put a breakpoint on the main function and resume it. So this breakpoint will be hit. So we still have all of the familiar with things like step over, step into, etc. Right? But we do have 4 new buttons here that we can use to do reverse execution. So you can actually do reverse execution. Let's see. We have a breakpoint here, and it's here. So I can actually go backwards, and it will go directly to here. Yeah. And what is nice about this is it also, so RR actually supports simulating hardware breakpoints. So you can actually put a hardware breakpoint in GDB, and it will also work. Although at the time of this demonstration, it doesn't work in Binja, but in the future, we can also add that. So that is going to be very useful if you analyze a Linux binary. All right, so if you have been following our development of the debugger.
All right, back here, turn that back on. So that is my audio still working? I gotta make sure my levels are good. Okay, so yeah, that's one of the debugger improvements. It's not the only one, but Shusheng's got RR integrated. We're really interested in, oh, Streamlabs is behind on, there we go, okay, caught up. We're really focusing on the debugger side a lot on TTD. There's a bunch of really neat TTD integrations. We want to roll out more, kind of leverage them more intelligently. I think there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with them. Yeah, you want to see like what was there before it got overwritten, some key in memory, or all sorts of applications for traces. And so I think combining, like, for example, our API, the Binja API, which I'm gonna go out on a limb and say is the best, reverse engineering static analysis API out there, with a API that can access TTD as well, and kind of how would you, like, what are the cool things you would do with both of those together? I think there's a lot of really nifty things, and so there's a lot of work left to be done. I actually had a conversation with Shusheng where he's been working on the debugger kind of by himself. Like, he's really the main developer on it for quite some time. And I said, hey, do you need a break? You need something else? And he said, there's still so much interesting to do. And I said, yeah, that's a lot of us. What does we feel like on sort of core part of the product? It's the same thing. Like, there's still so many interesting problems, good things to solve, like cool stuff happening, that it doesn't feel boring. It definitely is engaging and interesting, and he's still loving it and kind of working on it. So yeah, Debug TTD was out, I think, in the last stable. He's been and it's like it's gotten smoother. He's really improved the workflow around that. Like if you just the way that you use it out of the box is really clean and easy. Like, will automatically install things, and the setup is pretty fast. So yeah, the goal is to really make that as easy to use as possible. And then, I think there's gonna be all sorts of neat stuff we'll figure out on top of, what we're currently doing. So TTD is definitely kind of a good focus. And there's some other debugger style things that we want to do as well. So let me find, I think it's in the debugger plugin, right? That'll work. It'll work there. We'll do that. I'll pull this one up. I think this is, yeah, that'll work. So I should be able to debug that one. So let's see this. Let me make sure I'm on the right version. Because I'm pretty sure the dev version there would work fine, but we'll use the latest dev just to make sure. It's also wild to me that we're past 7,000 builds, the build number right now, which is crazy. I 100% believe that. What did I? What did I do to the Sidekick? Oh, hold on. This is the wrong one. Oh, right. That is the old one. Enterprise dev. There we go. So I believe that, Greg. Yeah, you might want to mention that in Slack to Shusheng. But yeah, I'm also not surprised. As Josh said, I didn't know that was possible either. All right, so if we pull up the debugger, oh, it's over here. No wonder. I was like, where did it go? Has it always been over here? Did I move it? I feel like I moved it. All right. So the one of the major changes here is that the way that there used to be the debugger adapter, the little settings dialog was kind of a one-off, and now it's actually, you'll notice it looks very similar to Open with Options. This has a lot of advantages. It actually kind of slowed development when you've got to do like UI work on it. But when you can just quickly leverage the existing UIs for nice things like all these different types, you notice there's way more options now when you go to like set your debugger adapter settings. So recent devs, I think in the last couple weeks, maybe 2 weeks now, have had this, and you'll see that it's much more detailed. There's a lot of other options. I'm trying to remember the particular one. Yeah, so there's like ASLR being enabled or not is one of them. There's a whole bunch of new things you'll see in here. So lots of cool new features that are kind of available now to us more easy to develop settings. So expect if you ask now for a feature and a debugger setting when you want to open something, it's gonna be way easier to do, and so you're much more likely to get a good answer, which is great. So let's go ahead and let's do that, and yeah, let's go ahead and attach to it. So again, same thing here. When we start it, we get the pop-up as well with a lot more options, much like Open with Options. And now you'll notice this is another big change right here. So this analysis hold, this is really cool. Before, Binary Ninja, while something was debugging, was kind of like fighting, essentially letting its analysis update, which it's good. You want to update the analysis when you can interact with it. But you actually wanted to do it only at certain points. It's like right now, for example, if I set a breakpoint on this this printf and then run to continue, I forget, run to here, I'll just continue. What is it? Resume, that's the name of it. Okay, so it would have very briefly unfroze analysis and then refroze it, essentially. So analysis holds are automatically like happening here. And so what you'll notice is that's not just an initial analysis hold. That's the same feature like in the past in Binary Ninja. If like you had this really long running session, you could like pause analysis and make some changes. Like you had a function that was, we have detection, for example, for infinite loops, so that if you're analyzing a function and it's taking too many times, we'll say like, hey, we think there's something wrong here. Lots of reasons that can happen. Like if, say, analysis has two different sources of truth and we don't catch the fact that they're each kind of constantly changing something, like you don't know which one's correct, you have to kind of settle things out. But if you don't catch the fact that you're infinitely looping, it'll stop. Now, so we'll detect that, but if you manually say like, no, keep going, you can get stuck in a loop that you can't recover from, you can't get out of. Well, now you can, because you can do the, you can pause analysis while you're running. You can make a change, like you could manually set a user type for that function or whatever is being changed and kind of flip-flopping, and then resume, and then analysis will continue. So it used to be like once you paused analysis, you were kind of like stopped, like analysis is in a weird state. So Brian did some work where the workflow system, which is how, like, you know, kind of the orchestration of all the analysis, it's much more susceptible to pausing and then resuming. And so the debugger is taking advantage of that here. So you'll see it like it's got this analysis hole, which is great because you're stopped. You can make a bunch of changes, and then those will all get updated kind of like once you continue. All right, so question from Greg about when like ETA went. Well, also over 9,000. I don't know the rate we're going. It may not be that long. In general, if you go to our GitHub repo, which is the API, the docs, actually all of the architectures are here now too. It's kind of turning into a little bit of a mono repo. And you go to milestones, you can pull up the G release. H, I think we do have the name for H, but we haven't publicized it for sure. It's gonna be the one after it. The current estimated release date is April 2nd. I think that might be a little off. We'll see. We may ship that a little bit afterwards, but I forget the exact plans. But that's where you can know whatever our current estimate ship date is. So usually I would have done the stream like at least a week ago, and that's why we're doing the stream a little bit later. And we'll see. We've still got 97 open out of 114 like closed. That's a little ambitious to close all those. So either some of these issues will get bumped to the next release, or we'll extend it. One of the two. So some of these, it'll be probably a mixture if I had to guess, but we'll see. Like again, a lot of these are very close. Just so you know, internally, like we have another kind of timeline where we basically go to a feature freeze, then we go to a code freeze, and we have a test release process there. So early April should be available. If you're on development, if you're using, you've got a paid license, you can switch to the development branch, and for that, next week sometime, basically everything I've demoed should be available. It should all be working on dev. Oh yeah, Mason, that's right. The redirect standard. Yeah, I think that is new. You're right. Good point. Back in the debugger, when you check the options. Yeah, that's quite nice too. Yeah, so a lot of new settings in there. Yep. So early April we should be getting that, and yeah, let's keep going. We got a couple more. We're not done. Oh wait, did you get all the debugger? Let's see. Analysis hold, settings. Oh. One other thing, if you happen to be using Corellium, yeah, so this got asked earlier, if you happen to be using Corellium, yes, let's stop the debugger. We do have an early, it's called the Corellium adapter for now, but it is a GDB RSP debugging backend. So we've been using LDB or WinDebug's direct APIs. But who was it that asked that earlier? Somebody was asking about, yeah, Robert, you were asking about the GDB adapter. So this is actually the early GDB adapter right here. So it is already, it's currently sort of like in a feature kind of test preview. We're specifically working on it with Corellium. I think JLink is GDB RSP, right, Joe? I think the answer is maybe not currently. Right now, it's really just being specifically tested for Corellium, but probably soon after the next stable release, we expect the GDB RSP interface to be tested more broadly with other things. QEMU, there's a lot of things which it would be great to tie in the GDB backend. And Shushang's looking forward to it because LDB is like a pain from a debugging perspective. The advantage of GDB RSP is at least you can like inspect the protocol, or you can see what it's doing under the hood, and so you can see why it's behaving a certain way or how things are happening. So he's looking forward to that. So yep, that is coming as well. Not in this release, like I said, that will not be. I don't think you're going to see general GDB RSP support. Maybe I'm wrong, and Shushang's got more cooked up than I know, but I think I would expect that to be really trickling in. Like I said, it's kind of here now. Like you could try this. You can point something at the Corellium adapter and try a GDB RSP. That's very like untested. And so exactly, he's looking forward to trying a new flavor of pain, the new GDB remote protocol. So we'll see how that goes. But that's the first kind of little trial that we're doing with them, and we'll hopefully be adding more and more things as well. So I mean, maybe for I think they just made some assumptions about how you operate, where they assume you're running their code on both ends of the conversation and make it a little bit harder to work with. And that's GDB RSP has some other problems with it, with the protocol. There's a lot of like custom extensions and weird stuff, and that's why to some degree maybe us kind of like doing like an iterative process of testing one particular thing. But some of it may just work once he's got the base features in. We'll see. Like with curling, for example, we're working a lot with to really get performance down, because they've got like the way Binary Ninja accesses memory is it kind of like when you're you can do like multi-threaded like lifting and stuff, and so you're like hitting memory kind of all over the place, and that actually hurts some of the things they're doing for performance optimization. So anyway, yeah, we'll keep an eye out there for more info, but it is already kind of in progress. So you could certainly play with it if you really wanted to be on the bleeding edge. All right, let's go back to our list. So what do we got? And this is dev. Okay. Firmware Ninja, stack array creation, and it's not just stack array, again, stack array and structure creation. So let's rename it stack array and structure creation, or structure propagation and creation, right? I just want to make sure we're describing it. Union support, #1 most requested feature that's currently open. Go back and look through the closed ones, and you'll see we've been hitting all of the top ones. So yeah, soon we're going to be left with nothing but the ones that will take us a long time, I think, at the rate we're going. Kernel cache, C-Sky, Itanium, URL handler expansion, a bunch of stuff in the debugger, and now a few more things. So I already mentioned the DSC app being out of alpha, and a large amount of that is due to the ton of effort from B-Dash, Way. We appreciate your efforts, as well as we've got a number of folks internally working on that, making that perform as best as it can. Let's see. Linear view line wrapping. That's right. I mentioned that briefly, but the long lines have been, I think, made a thing in the past, which is super nice. So you don't see nearly as many. I mean, control flow recovery improvements made it where a lot of them just didn't happen anyways, which has been great. But also, see, look, this is a terrible binary to demo this on. I thought I had. Let's see if this one has any more. Can I just say, by the way, how much I take for granted and how much I enjoy just clicking and scrolling through linear decompilation? I sometimes forget that that's literally not a thing the other tools can do. So yeah, like none of these even have any long lines. I don't think they would have had long lines. I don't see any super large if statements or whatever. But so that's again, we're yeah. And there's a little bit. So you see line wrapping kicking in there. But that was one of those that I think, no, your test binary is great. It's not the problem with the binary. It's a problem that Binge's decomp has gotten good enough that it doesn't even need the line wrapping as much as it used to. Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's a good point. Good call. Actually, let's go to the kernel one, right? Some of these Win32 APIs, they get real. So yeah, line wrapping is already kicking in here. On these, although this is just missing. Actually, I need to be using the other test branch to make this look good, right? So that's fine. We'll intentionally make it look bad by not using the one with the support, but there we go. You can see a lot of line wrapping kicking in here, makes things a little bit easier to read. So that one, just I always forget, that was kind of early on dev. I think plenty of people are actually excited about that, Galen. Did you catch it earlier? I did demo. We did do the links. Yeah, adding some more features. I still want plugin manager, by the way, too. I think it'd be cool to link directly to plugin manager for a couple of things. So also formatting. So this is actually a huge one that I don't have a full demo on. Actually, I do have some notes. Let me pull those up. Yeah, so there's this one actually is, yeah, it really actually belongs probably at a top level one. This is the new render layer system. So this is also one that's kind of been here for a little while. This has been something that Marcus from the Lighthouse developer has been asking for a while. He's like, I really want a callback to be able to modify how things happen in the like the rendering. So I don't know how to find decompilation. I don't want to change analysis. I don't know how to workflow. It's heavy-handed, but I just want to be able to say, like, when you go to render the text of your function, call me first, because maybe I want to change how it's laid out, or I want to change some rendering on it. And that's now possible with the new rendering layer. And so there's a couple of examples that you can use for this. So like, let's see here, annotate offset. So where is it? It's under here. Render layers. There we go. So there's an example plugin too. These are open source examples, I believe, that you can do. So if you want to turn on like stack offsets, or is it annotate stack offset? I should probably use a function that actually has that. Is it on here? Did I miss it? Okay. So let's go find, probably need to go low level IL. Let's go look at some. Oh, all right. It's right there. I'm missing it. It's been there the whole time. I've been here the whole time. Exactly. So you can add a new, so it is in, and is it, was it in the higher ones? I just missed it too. Or I think it was just a little while below. Yeah, that would make sense because the stack goes away at medium level. So both disassembly and low level IL, you're going to get that. You can actually see whatever the stack offset is, like as just an extra column of output, right? So you can write your own plugin to modify this behavior. You can change highlighting. There's a bunch of things that you can modify, like the line. You can add extra information. In fact, I thought, Glenn, you had a couple more. Maybe they're just not on by default. But I remember in testing you had some other ones that you were working on. So there are window layout presets, but I don't know how that interacts with like the render layers. That's actually, I doubt they're, I think the render layer setting is just, I have to go look. My guess is Q settings, but oh, that's right, the coloring one. Okay, so that was just internal only, just for like testing the fast rendering. Like if you wanted to be able to, actually, Debugger is a great example. Actually, does the Debugger use that currently? I don't remember if that got refactored or not, but that was one of the goals for it. Was, for example, we have a highlight API, but the highlighting API is for like saving stuff to the database, which is fine if you want to do something for like Lighthouse, like you're going to like permanently annotate something. Maybe that's okay. But one, there's performance implications potentially. And if you just have a callback and you could do it yourself in the callback, maybe that actually works out better versus like just doing one big annotation right up front, setting all the APIs on it. Okay. There we go. That's right. So there is a public example as well. Yeah, in the GitHub repo. I thought there's another one. Right. So often it's a feature in other tools that people like that we haven't historically done because we kind of have strong opinions about you should be using the ILs. But if you're in like lower levels of ILs, there's just a call, but like, well, what parameters does this function take, and which one of these things are parameters essentially? Other tools will show you that. Well, you can install this example, this render layer example, and it will just annotate that. Again, it's a pure description thing, but it will show you the arguments in the disassembly or in the low level IL at the point of the call. So a lot of actual cool things you can do with that. That's actually, I think, out of the box, other than that one feature that I just showed up there, most users won't even notice it, but as a plugin author, it unlocks a whole bunch of other things. So you're going to see neater plugins, better plugins, more cool highlighting stuff. Maybe the debugger can do because it's a little lighter weight than calling the highlight API directly. So you can do all that from the render layer. So yeah, that's actually a super great one too. All right, what else? Let's go do some of these real quick. So we talked about the SVD loader already. We talked about, let's say, yeah, the linear view has real icons now. So this folding, it's really minor. You might not have noticed it, but these just got a little bit prettier. Bit of a hack before we were using like characters to do it, but these are actual icons. So the little folding icons for code folding are a bit nicer, which is clean. If you use those a lot, if you're a big fan of those, then you'll notice those will look a little bit nicer. What else? Oh yeah, some of my favorites are actually here. I can search for like 7033. Was that one of the builds that I had? Yeah, so that was one of the builds I had, right? Was this test. I can now search descriptions inside of the projects. And this is great when I've like got a big project or a big enterprise. And again, the project feature is local, but the enterprise version would be the remote version of that. You can search for the description and the names. So for big things, that's actually super useful. I'm a huge fan of that one. And also, it's hard to see on this project, actually, but if I go back to, let's go to a different project. So I haven't downloaded Frogstar. Actually, yeah, notice that was grayed out, right? So notice on the picker, the ones I have yet to download are grayed out. And then on this particular one, let's go find like these files here, for example. I've never opened these. They're all grayed out. I don't have them. And it used to be like really tedious to download them all, or now I could just be like, oh yeah, please grab me all those files for offline caching, right? I want to be able to get all of those files. And so it's going to go pull me. I should have checked on how big all these files were before I triggered it. But yeah, it's really, really handy. So I use this a ton, actually. The enterprise customers are probably really going to enjoy that. That's super nice. Both the searching, the filtering, the status, as well as some of the other ones too. You can now both open the location of the file. You can delete the selected file. Where's the new one though? Copy file location, right? Like your on disk file location, for example, you can copy. You want to do something with it locally in a cache. You want to pull in some other tool or something. Just one click to do that. That got added. So a lot of nice little quality of life things around the file management in projects and enterprise, which are very handy. All right, so back to here. And then, yeah, last two, I think, are the customer portal and the extension manager. Let me look here. We got a couple of... Oh, Qt. So basically Qt type libraries, Greg, are what you're asking for, right? We would have to have like built-in Qt type libraries, some kind of... Probably would implement that as a plugin. It could maybe be a workflow. Maybe there's a reason to do it there, but probably a plugin type libraries. I actually reversed a lot of Qt. I'm usually doing it with Binja with symbols and stuff, but on debug builds. That's a good question. Ooh. Yeah, Nicolo. Yeah, we haven't actually addressed any kind of changes to possible value set in a while. Yeah, I don't think that's actually come up. That would be a good I recommend go to our GitHub discussions and start up a discussion on that. And sort of like make the case, describe like how you would use it. Because one of the things that we get a lot of times when somebody asks us like for a particular feature is like, we want to understand like what's your goal? Like how does that help you? Because sometimes we, we'll be like, oh yeah, that would totally be how we would implement that too. Or sometimes we'll say, well, what about this if you consider this? And we kind of want to iterate on the idea a little bit. So that definitely feels like something that we would benefit from a discussion here. And we can get the folks that are relevant to that bits of the binary or that bit of our analysis to chime in and to look at it. Because I couldn't tell you off the top of my head if that's a particular feature we would like use or how we would do it. It's out of my deobfuscation. That's true. A lot of the value set analysis tends to be useful there. Yeah, that's fair. But like specifically examples of what helps you do would be great. All right, last couple things before I lose my voice. All right, so the customer portal has seen, I showed it off last time. It was new right before the last release, but it's gotten a number of like improvements to it. I don't think we had like the trainings listed on it before. I don't remember if the chat, I think I'd added afterwards too. So you actually can hit our support chat right from here. You can bug me, it goes right to my phone most of the time because I'm usually paying attention to that. You see your changelog. So just like before, again, you can come through and grab all the old versions, as mentioned earlier that they were testing 1.0. You can go back. Now I'm using Ultimate here, and so I don't have the older licenses, I think because of that. That's still, there were slightly older versions of Ultimate. Oh no, that's right. No, Ultimate itself was newer. Yeah, Enterprise existed beforehand. So if I had a commercial license, it'd be a more interesting demo with older downloads. But what's interesting though is that you can now have teams. So for bigger organizations, you can actually create a team. You can have like a manager. You can reassign licenses to other people. So all that is done here in the portal. So you can actually do your own team, assign a license to it, invite other people to it. And that's really handy. And we are very lazy. I would love to build systems to automate as much of the administrative stuff as we can. So letting our customers themselves automatically reassign licenses, automatically reassign licenses and true them up. For example, sometimes they renew at different times. Being able to do all that through the portal is a goal that we're working through all those features on. One of the other ones though that is applicable to everybody right now is this file uploader. So it's just, I think I mentioned to Brent earlier, we need to put a link to it on the main template, but the portal also has this /upload URL now. And so if you're dealing with like a support request and you want to send us a file, like in Slack or email or however it works, if you do this, you can follow a GitHub issue You could choose to upload a file. So let's go upload. Let's go upload one of our hello world binaries. And you're gonna. Oh, yeah. I think I mentioned we've got to fix that. It doesn't allow no file. There's an open issue tracking that, because it only accepts a certain type of, yeah, these particular types right now. So you could just, I could just compress it. Let's do that. Where was it here? Yeah, so if I just compress it and then try again, that's one way to get around it. But the nice thing is you get this phrase, and then when you go find your, file your GitHub issue, you can be like, yeah, like here's the, like it's a private binary, but I've uploaded directly to you, and here's the phrase, right? So you can put that in. You put your phrase in. And I love, by the way, it's a forward phrase where it's adjective, noun, verb, adverb. It's great. So like they're very memorable. You don't even need like a copy and paste. You can memorize these, and yet they're very, very distinct. So I thought that was really, really cute. They also make for great images. For some of these things, we use chat, large language models or whatever, neural, no, what do they call this? The generative AIs basically to make images. Yeah, so this is exactly what those phrases are. And it used to be we do this all by hand manually and come up with a name and save it and then put it on the user, like do it. Like now it's just automated, right? And the idea is that you can now associate then that binary with something that we can find internally in the company, and we can search for it later, and it's in a database in our Slack and all this different stuff. So yeah, so it just makes filing issues easier, and yet keeping your files private while still giving us samples and associate with them. So that's quite nice. Another little preview is the extension manager. So, oh, and it did. Look, I didn't know if it was gonna do this or not. Look at this. They just added this, like I think today. This used to be official only. So Zerotistic, you may have, if you're in the public Slack, you're aware, has an awesome website with a public extension viewer that he built here that has some even other features. You can like filter stuff down. And it tracks both like the ones in the plugin manager as well as other ones. Right now, there's some that we still haven't gotten kind of updated or put in there, older ones or whatever. So this is a great website. We love it. There's still kind of value in it, but this is sort of the new version of how the extensions are going to be loaded. And also as we move towards doing not just plugins, but themes, warp signature libraries, all the different other things that we want to like, we're building a lot of things that you don't necessarily want to put all one big massive download. You want to have like, stuff down like added afterwards on the fly. And so all that's going to go through this extension manager. So this is the binary extension, right? And I can look for just like Python plugins, right? Or I can look for just Rust plugins. And I can see the types in here. So, and you also notice that we do have Rust and C++. And so these ones now show up in the plugin manager as not an install link because it's a C++ plugin. It's just a more info, and it will take you to the GitHub repo where you can build it yourself. We're working on even automating that, really making it so that like it's like GitHub Actions, and they automatically will build and track the API. And so like as a plugin author, you can write Rust and C++, but still get all of the value and power of like a Python plugin that just installs on every version, automatically updates and tracks itself. So that's going to really make the plugin ecosystem super, even I think we already have like far and away the best plugin ecosystem of any RE tool, and this like takes it to another level. So I enjoy watching other things try to catch up. And I think we're, so we're always trying to make it easier and better on people. So that's gonna be really nice. You'll be able to like just get your native plugin installed, and when there's a new version of Ninja, latest dev or latest stable, it'll just be able to update the plugin and keep going. You don't have to build it yourself, which is a huge pain for native plugins otherwise. Trying to do that. So yeah, that's there in the extension manager. In fact, fun fact, Ninja is already using it internally. So the internal plugin manager repo, I guess we haven't really exposed that, but internally all of our official plugins have been going through this ecosystem for actually like 3 or 4 months now. And we're just migrating the public plugins. If you're a plugin author, nothing should change majorly. We'll have a blog post with more details and stuff, but you don't have to do a whole lot different. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. Same thing, you'll still file an issue on GitHub, and then every time you cut a new release, we'll automatically update it, review it. There's a couple new features, and we'll probably do things even like community managers. So that's something that we'd love to do, is if there's people that are really active in the community that are trusted, and they want to review and approve plugins. So instead of waiting for one of us in this new version, new release of a plugin, we'll have other people that can be a part of that. So that's something that we're yeah, looking forward to doing as a part of that. So, whew, okay, was that it? I think that was it. Go through my list. Yeah. All right. I think that's. Thanks everybody that stayed with me. I'm getting hot in here. So it was a lot of talking. I thought it would take about 2 hours. So yeah, that's pretty spot on. Sorry for the little small start kind of at the beginning with the. I'll go live next time, I promise. We'll get it automated. But yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out. If you got any other questions, let me know. Oh, I did promise. I don't know if somebody's gonna remind me. I just started the kind of thing here. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate that. I promised a little sneak, so let me sneak in. Let me show you what I'm cooking up for something I kind of want to do. And actually, let me know if you guys think it's interesting. So I'll be right back. We'll see if you think this is interesting. All right. So I thought it would be fun to. Oh, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not Versace robes. So this is. I don't want to like. This is a toy whose parent company I don't want to anger. um, that has a little like flashing ribbon of LEDs and characters. It is a cube. It is a cube, but not the cube you were expecting, right? And so you can like interact. You can do stuff, and there's there's a bunch of little things. It's almost like a little Tamagotchi that make noise. You can hatch new ones. There's 30 different characters in it, and you can like shake it and it plays music and like little things, animations. And I thought it would be really fun to. There's no public decompiler for the CPU that it runs. All right, it's just this very kind of niche. Actually, it turns out it's not. There's actually a huge. I've done just a little bit of research to kind of get prepped on it. But it's basically a bunch of toy brands are running this architecture that there's not a lot of tooling on, and there is somebody who's working on like a really nice write up of analyzing this thing, doing a full teardown, and so I don't want to kind of like preempt what they're doing, and they're probably going to do a better job digging into this particular thing. But I just thought it'd be really fun to kind of take my time and really sort of like RE something from scratch, do a little bit of hardware stuff. I've never done hardware. Get the firmware off this thing and create an architecture in Binja, get some decompilation on it, do some analysis, use Firmware Ninja and play with it, try it, and add support for this. It's micro, like literally the Greek character like for micro in like it's like a U, right? I forget the actual Greek character name. So of course, yeah. I mean, obviously, patching it was the Binjagachi. That was exactly the goal. You 100% called it. So as soon as I saw this, I thought, oh, I want Binji to be on this thing. And it might be the next crazy bomb. This might be the forever teased thing. But no, I've already started a little bit of the prep research for it, and I'd like to do it. In fact, actually, one of the questions I've got is, how much do you guys want to see me fail and just figure stuff out on stream, and how much would you like to see me like sort of like know that I'm going to be there? Yeah, Miguel, exactly. That's the character. So it's that plus apostrophe NSP. That's the name of the CPU architecture. Well, it used to be by Sun Plus, a company that now they're called General Plus, and there are billions of these devices, kids' toys mostly, running either different variants of the CPU architecture. MAME actually already has a disassembler for some of the versions, and they're able to emulate it for a couple of different game platforms. So that helps me out a ton. I don't have to do it all from scratch. Yeah, just do it. I don't think I'm not doing it on a personal license. I'm 100% going to do it with Firmware Ninja. I'm not that good. I don't know. And the part of the problem is I could do some of it on free, and the problem is that like writing a new architecture is not something that free can do. So it really like I'm kind of limited in that regard. So I probably kind of have to use one of the pay ones, but I do love the idea of doing some streams on free. Actually, some malware analysis would be more fun. Maybe I'll do some like get Josh. We could do a co-stream or something. He can watch me flail trying to do the stuff that he knows. And yeah, maybe we do like a use free to do some malware analysis or something else, because I like the idea of specifically doing something that's easier to follow along for people that don't have a license. Yeah, exactly. Do a little collab. So anyway, that's kind of ideas of what I've been thinking about. And now that I've said it, you guys can hold me accountable and be like, ETA when, ask me for when that stuff's coming. So, oh yeah, no, I got you, Greg. I totally appreciate that. Yeah, and the good news though is that some of these are moving to like ARM and stuff, that you can still do that with the free version or the non-commercial version. So, and if you're a student at all, by the way, we do have a huge student discount. So if you're not already aware of that, you can get it for very cheap with a student discounted license. But yeah, we'll see where we end up with those things. But that's the current plan. So yeah, it sounds like people like that idea. But I appreciate everybody that hung out this stream. We'll be back, I think, usually like the week of the release. At worst case, I'll see you when we get the 5.0 out for sort of release party stream. We'll see how we did with everything that we've got cooking, and we'll see how the release process went and how close we were to our target time. And yeah, look forward to it. Thanks again for kind of hanging out. So sweet. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. Later.